Hey Ryan, we've had some questions come in lately, and I'm gonna ask you some things and see how you respond, and we'll go from there.
I love lie detector tests, so this is perfect.
Excellent. Okay, so um, I've watched your movement evolve considerably over the past few years. What's different about the MintzFlow method compared to a couple of years ago, and why the evolution?
Oh gosh. A little bit of background. So I coached optional and elite level gymnastics for about 16 years, trained with Cirque for a couple of years, and have pretty much done different styles of movement for years and years. So I've trained CrossFit, and I've done conventional weightlifting, and I've done um, like Ninja Warrior Spartan type training. I've done gymnastics inspired fitness, and I've done mobility and functional patterns. And so over time, my methodologies have evolved in different ways to um, promote different things and different values that I personally have for my movement, but also what I have kind of learned to be more and more effective towards making people better movers. So back when I did only gymnastics or only CrossFit, um, I've injured all kinds of different things in my body. So I've broken my back, I've torn my bicep, I've torn both of my ankles, I've had pretty much every ache and pain known to man for different postural distortions, different things. And so at one point, I was tired of hurting all the time, and so I started to dive down the rabbit hole of getting rid of a lot of my aches and pains, and I kept finding that certain training um, methodologies kept causing me to hurt, and I was tired of um, building muscle and training and leaving the gym hurting all the time, and having to burn 1,500 calories and working out 7 days a week and doing all these things that the industry said I needed to do to be successful at fitness and was not being successful. My body was always inflamed. I'd never had energy. I was always crashing in the afternoon. And so I just started to evolve my system as I learned more to make it more and more precise in my training. And so a number of years ago, and even if you scroll down like my social media feeds, you'll see the difference in the types of exercises and things that I've been doing as I learned more and as I understood the body mechanics a lot better. And now I combine a couple of different philosophies depending on the phase of training that I'm bringing my clients through. Generally, I have two different focuses in terms of the style of training that I do with people that I work with. One thing I find is that you cannot fix skillful movement with skillful movement, meaning you can't fix a broken body by doing more of what caused it to be broken in the first place. So if those movements are damaging your body, which all skillful movement is going to damage your body, and that's not to say that you can't do it, you just need to make sure that you're doing the prep work for it. So generally when I'm starting with somebody, I want to take them through the stages of prep work so that their joints know how to be joints. They're working on um, creating joint independence so that their joints know how to function on their own.
Sure.
And then once they know how to function on their own and they're stabilized and they're strong through their usable ranges of motion, then we then tie those joints together in a way that respects our evolutionary biology. And humans evolved to walk, run, and throw as a primary function of our movement, which is a horizontal movement. And what I find is um, because we're designed to move in spirals, because we're designed to move horizontally, that's the way that our body is woven and wants to train. So when we go back to do gymnastics or CrossFit or other skillful movements, what ends up happening is we train in a vertical context and a linear context in those types of methodologies. That makes them a skillful movement because you cannot repair those muscular imbalances when you're doing a symmetrical exercise in that sense. And what I mean by that is, let's say your left side is stronger than your right side, and I'm trying to push a weight evenly with both hands. If one side is stronger than the stronger side is always going to do more work no matter what you do in that exercise. So you need to do a lot more contralateral and cross-body type patterning to get those to rebalance and synchronize correctly. And once those have synchronized and your body's functioning in a way that respects its biology, then you train skillful movement like gymnastics inspired fitness or CrossFit or weightlifting or any of that kind of stuff. And so the way that my system works is we create joint independence, and then we do joint interdependence, meaning gait cycle mechanics and
Mm-hmm.
posture. And then we evolve that to parabolic movement and skillful movement, like gymnastics inspired fitness and circ inspired fitness and handstands and all that fun stuff that people see me do on my social media. Is we build up to it in a progression based system to make sure that when they get to that point, they're not beating their bodies up. Their body is prepped for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that not only do my students get stronger faster, but their bodies don't hurt and they're able to learn skills much more quickly, even though up front they do what might be considered harder work or some of
Sure.
the boring stuff. Um, so that's pretty much how that system has evolved over time. Is it's compiled into different purposes to basically make sure that we are building strength in a way that
Mm-hmm.
respects our body.
So it's like building blocks on which you build the skillful movement after you get um, the foundational stuff done. Okay,
Right.
very cool. So is this how you train your own body, or do you do other things besides your movement system?
Everything I teach my students is something I do for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, my goals have changed over the years. I'm probably 20 pounds lighter muscularly than I was back when I was doing CrossFit and lifting weights.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really just because our body shapes and form follows the function. So we're basically, our body is going to shape to allow us to do the movements that we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is part of why those have changed. But there's also ways of applying muscle building techniques to a lot of what I teach in a functional context, so you can build muscle that synchronizes correctly and does that. It's just not one of my goals right now, so I don't personally train that too much. Um, However, um, what I work on with my general training is it kind of depends on the day. I do end range strength quite often because it helps my joints stabilize, but I'll also mix in some of my functional biomechanics and horizontal gait cycle exercises just because my body feels good when I do that. And then I will also tie in skillful movement. So it depends on the day. It depends on the workout scheme that I have set up. And so if you've seen any of my online programs or things and bought into that, you'll see the different formats that I use for my workouts, and you'll see some days I have specific mobility that is linked in with the types of workouts that I do on that day, and other days I'll do a prehab workout that combines gait mechanics and end range strength and whatever else to make sure that you're constantly uh, prehabbing and prepping your body for
Sure.
the fun stuff that you want to be
Mm-hmm.
doing, because the whole point of this is to get your body to move better so you can do what you want to do without your body getting in the way or holding you back.
Sure, that totally makes sense. So as kind of the main point of the, I guess, driving force behind your whole entire system, um, it's to make people move better. I understand that. So, is there anything else? Like, do you burn fat, build muscle, or what's the main point about?
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so most fitness in the industry pitches build muscle, burn fat
Sure.
is kind of the general concept um, of most fitness programs. Is it's much easier to sell a beach body,
Sure.
and I am a different paradigm in that sense. What I find is that, like I said earlier, your body is going to, the form is going to follow the function.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are trying to move your body through space, your body knows that it cannot put that resistance down. Whereas if you're holding a weight, it knows that it can, once that weight is gone, that resistance is no longer part of your body, and your brain knows that. And so when you are training by moving your body through space, or you're training in a way that is training the joints in their natural functions, your body is going to adapt to those kinds of movements knowing that it needs to be able to move itself, which means it's going to either say, okay, I can't move my body in this way. I either need to get stronger or I need to get lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to build muscle and burn fat as a
Mm-hmm.
side effect of the training, but that's not my purpose. So I'm not building in programs to say, okay, lose 30 pounds in 30 days. That's not that important to me because I find that your body will shift in that direction naturally and feel good at the same time. So it's much more sustainable in terms of longevity of your training, because your body feels better and better and integrates better and better, and you get stronger and you get leaner, and all these things start
Mm-hmm.
to come together. But I'm not going to pitch burn fat, because that's not really what's important behind my system. My
Mhm.
system is move better, and let that translate to anywhere else in your life, which is um, to me is more important. Just because I've done so many other pieces of that puzzle, that is where I have gone to now, because I know you will get leaner and stronger and look good doing this type of training. Um, and especially if you integrate some of the biohacking techniques and other things
Mhm.
that I do, you'll find that how this whole puzzle starts to fit together in a way that will give you the aesthetic results you're looking
Sure.
for, as well as the mental, physical results that you want out of a fitness program.
Sure. And I absolutely have experienced this because I started working with you and uh, began the system, and as a complete
Just kidding. She's worked with me for like a year, and she's barely walking now because we did legs earlier.
oh,
So
the
anyway,
struggle is real for sure, but it becomes more fun when you focus on all the posture and the gait mechanics, and the the fat just melts off as a complete side effect. And when you're not focusing on that, it makes it much easier for me at least. So now that we've talked a little bit about what the system is for the movement stuff, what does a typical day on the training trip look like as far as your system and the things that you're teaching?
typical day. So generally we get up at about 6 in the morning. It depends kind of on the location, what the
Mm-hmm.
sunrise is. Um, we have an optional sunrise meditation that we do every morning, and that lasts about an hour, and it's optional. But I highly encourage it as part of some of the biohacking techniques that I will teach. And so what we do is we get up at 6. We do a controlled articular rotation routine that I teach you on the
Mm-hmm.
first day,
Mm-hmm.
and we go through that, and then we spend the last 30, 40 minutes sun gazing and meditating. And it's a super powerful way to energize your body. It's a super good way to teach your joints how to be joints every day. And it's a good routine that I just want everybody to take home with them as a habit. So we start that every day, and that goes until maybe 7 o'clock ish. And after that, people will have some time to eat breakfast if they want, and we'll start the day around 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, we'll start our movement training for the day, and each day we're going to do different portions of the system that build from the previous day. And some of the days we'll do single joint articulation. Some days we'll do end range strength. Some days we'll do functional biomechanics, so gait cycle mechanics and posture. And then towards the end of the week, we get into some of the skillful movement. And that lasts anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. And what we do is we'll, depending on the mental density of the content, we'll take a break in there. And then we'll have a couple of hours in the afternoon to enjoy wherever we're at,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's at the beach or in the mountains or whatever we're doing. So we get to spend some time in nature, because nature is medicine.
Yes.
And
Yes.
get some sunlight, get some grounding, all that fun stuff. And so that's part of the afternoon. Some of the days, especially later in the week, we'll do a workout together, which kind of applies some of the techniques that I either taught, or we will just go through a completely just a fun workout to build some camaraderie, get a good workout in, do some movement in the afternoon to get our brains energized for what we're going to do in the evening. And so in the evening, we do one of two different topics. So we'll either cover some biohacking topics, or we will cover lifestyle design. And each of those we do on different days, and there's an actual formula and system that we go through each day of the week that has a lot of synergy between each of the topics. So the biohacking stuff plays very heavily into the movement stuff, and the
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle design also has a lot of overlap with what you want to do. And so there's a lot of strategies that we'll teach in the evening, and that lasts anywhere from 2 to 3 hours usually. So it makes the day about 8 or 9 hours long of training, and so you're basically drinking from the fire hose all day. You're going to learn a lot. Every day
Spaghetti brain.
is spaghetti brain for sure. Um, and you will move a lot. You will be physically sore. You will be mentally sore. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of really powerful content that you're going to not only be able to take home and use for yourself in your own life, but apply with your clients or apply to whatever other work that you're trying to do. So
Mm-hmm.
this is not necessarily only tailored for somebody who wants to learn gymnastics inspired fitness, or somebody who wants to learn movement strategies, or who's a personal trainer or a physical therapist or any of that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Maybe you're a lawyer or a doctor, or you're um, selling a product of some kind, and you want to understand how do you find your programming, how do you amplify your performance, how do you have more time, because that's really what it boils down to, is figuring out how do you create a system that is repeatable and scalable so you have more time without losing the things that you enjoy most, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can spend more time enjoying the things that you want to do.
Sure. That sounds
And
good.
um, so that's the framework and the system that we go through, and it's a specific formula that I teach everyone so that it applies to whatever your goals are. So we help you figure out what that programming is,
Mm-hmm.
and how to really dive deep into knowing who you are and what uh, your strengths are, so that you can utilize them and enjoy what you're doing, because so many people just are doing things they don't necessarily enjoy because they've been programmed to think success means a huge house and money, when really when you ask people deep down, everybody wants more time. They want to be able to do, and
Absolutely.
working all the time prevents you from doing. And so that's
Absolutely.
kind of the purpose of the system, is to help them find the things they enjoy and be able to do those things more.
Awesome. So is this all kind of theory that you've been um, cultivating, or do you practice this kind of stuff?
This is my life. So everything that I preach and teach is something that I personally uh, do and experiment with. So
Mm-hmm.
um, my movement stuff is stuff that I have developed on myself and worked with hundreds and thousands of clients. My biohacking stuff, I'm a walking pincushion and have been for uh, a decade at least. And so I've been doing all kinds of different experiments that I'll talk about and teach about
Mm-hmm.
in these workshops, basically, that I've mentioned them in my newsletters and things briefly, but I go much more in depth on how I apply it to myself, and
Yeah.
how to kind of take the information that I'm giving you, and take the pieces that will work for you and apply it. So uh, it's not just theory. It's do step by step this, and this is the result that you're going to get. So the business stuff I have evolved over a number of years. I ran an electronics business for over 8 years, made a whole lot of money, lost everything, and through just a chain of events, ended up practically being homeless for a while, and all kinds of things. And it led me eventually to find what my programming really was and where my passions really were, and being able to teach and work with my students in this way. And I've been able to create a formula that has allowed me to have a very special type of freedom to be able to have more time and enjoy what I'm doing, and be more uh, to have even my hard work not feel like hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a system, it's a formula, it is something that is follow these steps and get these results. And that's really important for doing lifestyle design and building a business, is creating a system that is scalable and repeatable. And that's what I want to help my students with,
Mm-hmm.
is how do you, not necessarily how do you make $1 million, it's how do you make $1 from a million different things, and
Which is way more
creating
fun.
systems. And then you can have all these different puzzle
Yeah.
pieces, and then it becomes creative, and you get to tap into your creative potential on a much deeper level, because you're not trying to do one thing that solves all of your problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes fun, because then you have new ideas every day, and things get exciting, and you get to interface with new people,
Sure.
and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the premise behind it, is teaching people how to find their tribe and make money off of their tribe, which is a really cool place to be, because then you're helping people, you're making money by helping people, and they're benefiting at the same time.
Sure.
And so it's a win across the board, and there's nothing better than that.
That's awesome. I love it. So, um, you mentioned that you've gone through some ups and downs, life-wise, to get you to where you are currently, and you had to really step outside of your own comfort zone. Let's talk about comfort zones, and how you push people, how far you're going to push people on the trip. Um, What can they expect?
No survivors. Um, so don't bother buying a return ticket. Just kidding. So I had it's funny, I had a reputation in college.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that I had a group of folks who used to do gymnastics inspired fitness workouts with me. And, oh, you can do 5? Now do 1,000. It was kind of the reputation that I had. And my methodologies have evolved quite a bit since then. But there are some crossovers that are designed to teach you that you can do more than you thought you could.
Mm-hmm.
And so in terms of intensity, the workouts are not running a sprint for hours on end. It's not a train until you throw up. My workouts are designed to use your brain a whole lot more than most conventional workouts are. And because they require your brain to work, they're going to burn a lot more energy than you realize while you're doing that exercise. So a lot of my students mention, how tired they are after the workout or how much they end up sweating doing these types of exercises, even though they seem like they're not, uh, like you're barely moving when you go to do some of the workouts. And it's primarily because the majority of your mitochondria exist in your brain. And when you have to connect your brain to the rest of your body, you're going to burn more energy just as a side effect of that. Because most people are not used to connecting their brain to their body when they do movements, it becomes a much more difficult and focus oriented exercise. And because of that, you end up having to push yourself in a different way than you might otherwise be used to. Meaning, you're going to cramp a lot, and you're going to learn how to push through that cramp. You're going to have to do exercises that you're used to just cranking and repping out, that I'm looking for quality over quantity, and I would rather you do 1 rep perfectly than 50 reps. And that's the case with a lot of the exercises that I show. Is we go through one we'll do one exercise with 1 rep, and we will do that 1 rep perfectly for everyone as they are building the technique. So one, everybody sees the compensation mechanisms on each other's bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They also learn how to do the cueing on different issues that people might face. And a lot of that, for one, requires a lot of focus on the part of the person doing the exercise, but it all because there's so many micro adjustments that they need to make, especially when people have compensation mechanisms that they've developed over years and years. Getting certain muscles to fire on command takes a lot of work and concentration, and so you end up working all kinds of new muscles that you didn't even know you had. Beyond that, the gymnastics workouts are tough. Like even the workouts are a difficult workout by their nature. And my goal is not to sit here and make you throw up, but my goal is to improve your ability to move. And that means holding you accountable to the quality that is expected to do these movements safely and effectively.
Sure.
And so it's really important that when I'm training certain exercises, that execution has certain criteria so that you actually make improvements faster on those skills. Because a lot of times, especially with gymnastics inspired movements, a lot of people cheat by bending their knees, or they have their shoulders sag or their elbows bend, or whatever the case is. That ends up leading to certain pains and dysfunctions over time. And so the way that I progress these systems combines the prep work and making sure the technique is on point so that when they go to do the skill, they can learn it a lot quicker, even if they have to do certain progressions before that. And one of the things that I like to remind my students is that every single progression that, even if it's a wrist push-up, every single progression that we do is a skill in and of itself. And so if you think about each progression as a skill and you train it as a skill, the progress you make accelerates quite a bit faster. The other thing I like to tell people is that it's not about succeeding at the movement. It's about getting the muscles to activate. So we want to create an environment and a mentality that it's about the purpose of the movement, not the number behind the movement, and not the end goal down the road. Because once you achieve a handstand, or once you achieve a planche, or once you achieve proper gait mechanics, there's evolutions upon evolutions upon evolutions beyond that. And so no matter how strong you get, there's always something harder. And as you get strong in one direction, something else is going to give way to get weaker in another direction. And so there's always a give and take with different training modalities that you do. And so the idea is to constantly be training skills because you love to it becomes meditative and evolutionary across your mind, body, and spirit as you're doing that training to learn to push yourself, because you don't have a number like I added 5 pounds to my squat today. It is a much more amorphous way of looking at progress. So it has to be people who are passionate about movement.
And that's honestly why I got hooked on it almost immediately, because I like using my brain in that fashion, and I like the quest for uh, this this skill. It's fun, and when you break it down like that, you've got the handstand skill, but then you've got all these pieces of it, and those are skills in themselves. That becomes very fun to work on. So I love that aspect of it. Um, so okay, we've kind of hit on the movement system. We've touched upon the lifestyle design. Let's talk biohacking for a moment. What do you mean when you say biohacking?
Biohacking is from and I use mitohacking and biohacking interchangeably.
Okay.
When people have certain dysfunctions, they're they're generally energy issues. And so when your body's not working correctly, or you have illnesses or diseases, or your energy crashes in the afternoon, or you have anxiety, depression, or you lack mental clarity, or any list of number of things that people can look at and say, my performance could be better in that region, boils down to an energy issue. And so when I look at nutrition and I look at my body, I no longer look at nutrition from the biochemical standpoint. So I'm not looking at fats, proteins, and carbs and making sure that I'm getting macronutrients in the right ratios. And I have certain nutrition certifications, and I did that for years, to the point where I had to eat anywhere from 4,500 to 6,000 calories a day just to maintain where I was at.
Exhausting.
And so now I've changed my approach, looking at the quantum physics standpoint of how my body uses energy and produces energy. And that all boils down to how the mitochondria function. And so on this trip, what I teach people is understanding what the mitochondria are and how they produce energy, and then how the different systems in our body are supposed to work to produce energy. So generally, our bodies are supposed to be able to use sunlight, magnetism, and water as our primary fuel sources. And because of certain things in our atmosphere and certain things in our environment, our bodies are not properly using sunlight, magnetism, and water, because our DHA is depleted, or certain minerals are missing, and etc. And when that happens, we end up having what I like to call a mitochondria brownout. And this comes kind of from my background in electronics. When you don't have enough input power, the output power sags. When the output power drops, when your body's trying to do a function, it needs to shut stuff down in order to provide power to the thing it's trying to do in that moment. And every time you have that brownout, things slow down, things don't work, and you end up with depression, anxiety, mental fatigue, chronic fatigue, aches and pains. And even with physical pain, that is still an energetic issue. Pain comes from compensation. When your body has to compensate, it's rerouting electrical signals down a path that is not the natural path your body wants to take to move that joint. And when it has to do that, it has to work harder and expend more energy. And so when it has to do that compensation over many, many years, you end up getting tissue dehydration and compression. When you have, and there's a lot of layers to this, when you have that compression, dehydration, you're not getting electrical signals. When you don't get electrical signals, your body is running out of power, and that hurts. It's like getting the wind knocked out of you 24/7. And by improving your body's energy systems, those systems improve how they function. And so on the trip, when we talk about biohacking, we look at improving our body's in energy systems and ways of utilizing magnetism, water, and sunlight in an applicable fashion.
Cool.
So how does sunlight hit our skin or our retina? How is it transported from that point to the cell membrane? How does it cross the cell membrane? What happens when it hits the cell membrane and um, and then gets to the mitochondria? What do the mitochondria do with it? We talk about the different laws of how light interacts with metal, how light interacts with water, the different types of water, and how most water actually cause perpetual dehydration rather than hydration. How most people are in a chronic low redox state, which is why their energy systems don't work. And so we go through a whole series of things so that people can take those pieces and apply it to their life. It's part of why we do the sunrise meditation. It's part of why we talk about grounding in an applicable sense and what happens when you're using the planet's magnetism in your body. And the coolest thing from my standpoint is the same things that happened in my electronics components happen in our body. So everything that happened to the power supplies that I was designing from an electrical standpoint are the exact same process that happened to our body. And so it became a really fascinating adventure to dive down that rabbit hole, because it's the exact same process that I used when I was trying to design low distortion, low noise power supplies that could produce a lot of power. And so being able to take that stuff and understand it and then say, okay, I understand how the mitochondria use sunlight. Here's the puzzle pieces that are missing. Here you go, guys. This is how you do the same thing. And so that's the top level of what we talk about when we do biohacking, but there's so many layers to it that we talk anything about. We talk about parasites and how they alter over 1,000 chemical reactions in your body. We talk about how sunlight affects the tension in the cell membrane on our cell and alters our circadian rhythms based on the spectrums of light. We talk about water and how the hydrogen from water powers the turbine in our mitochondria to make it spin faster to produce more energy. So there's a lot of different things that we talk about from the quantum physics level that our bodies can use for energy, and then we apply it to eating and nutrition. Because now, as far as my nutrition goes, I'm on a severe caloric deficit by modern standards, but my energy is better, my sleep is better, my mental clarity is better, my creativity is better. All these things have improved, even though by conventional science, I'm anorexic, if you want to call it that.
Right.
But it's amazing how much my body has evolved to adapt to that, where I'm still able to train just as hard, if not harder, without losing steam, and how I'm able to stay lean with a lot less effort, and how I'm able to get a lot more work done in less time because my brain is working a lot better that way. So it is a system for improving your internal and deliverable performance. And that's what I consider biohacking, is improving those levels of performance, and then understanding the parts of your body that integrate with the spiritual layers of how just getting attacked by a bee, don't mind me. I think it thought I was a flower.
I think
and
so.
I am a beautiful flower, so you can learn from me about that. And so tying all of those pieces together, because we have that trinity of elements that all need to have a coherent working nature, because we can't be a bad mover but be healthy. We can't be healthy but be a bad mover. So there's all these different pieces that all fit together. So as you improve your internal function and your movement function, all of a sudden all these new doors open spiritually, and your mindset changes and your attitudes change, and all of these pieces of that puzzle start to unfold in really incredible ways. And part of the process is helping people tap into that, and tap into that kind of intelligent infinity, to be able to get that to make it usable so that they can take that home and be excited about it, because it's crazy exciting to see. And that's part of the game, is teaching people how to see, so that they can then take the baseline framework of what they're learning and expand upon it in whatever way is fun for them. Because that's what it's about, is finding the fun and expanding on the fun. And yeah, so
And it is massively, massively fun. The combination of these kind of three areas that you teach are this beautiful holistic picture of humanness, and that was actually going to be my next question: is why do you combine all of that? But you really answered
I
it
did. Yeah,
beautifully.
yeah.
Um, so how about what's your favorite part? What's your favorite part to teach on these trips, and why?
Um, so it's funny. In spite of all the biohacking that I do to amplify my performance and the training that I do, the week of training is difficult for me to teach, because it's 8 or 9 hours straight of drinking from the fire hose, but
Sure.
being on. I have to be tapped in and plugged in
You are the
all day
fire
long because
hose.
I'm the only teacher,
Yeah.
and so I have to be super tapped in. And so by the end of the week, no matter how much stuff that I do, I run out of gas. I'm very introverted by nature, and so having all of that energy also uh, sucks the life out of me on most layers, and I shut down. But my favorite part, ironically, is part of it is the camaraderie that I attract to this environment. So it is it, the people that come become my people, in the sense that we want the same things, we're excited about the same things, the conversations we have are the same fun, and we start with a topic, and everyone who comes has so much new creativity to bring, that the things I talk about raise new questions, and it's fun for me because then I get to go look and research other things that I may not know the answers to, and expand on what I know and expand on what they know, and the interfacing back and forth. I don't like a lecture format. I like to interact and be able to help people learn in the way that they enjoy learning. And so it helps me to become a better teacher and expand my vocabulary through that interaction. From a day-to-day standpoint, I think my favorite part is the morning meditation.
Yeah.
It's my favorite part of my day anyway. And everything I teach is the stuff I do every day. So I'm teaching and doing the things I talk about all day, every day. So I talk about movement. I talk about biohacking. That's the stuff those are the conversations I have. And so that's how I make money, because that's how I do those conversations. And but really, starting my day with sun gazing and meditation and a cars routine is so potent for improving the rest of my day, that it definitely is my favorite habit that I create on that trip. But all of it, I enjoy the teaching of the controlled articular rotation routine. I enjoy teaching the end range strength. I really enjoy the functional biomechanics stuff from a theoretical standpoint, because it makes a lot of sense and it feels good to the body. And I know my students like the gymnastics stuff, and they're all fun to teach. I've been teaching, gymnastics has been my passion for, like I said, I guess it's been 17 years, probably 16, 17 years now. And um, so I teach it because I love it. And I love teaching, and so all of that stuff is fun, and I wouldn't be offering it if I didn't love it. Because this whole program, the stuff I teach is the stuff I love, and that's what it has to be, because I can't guess what other people are going to like, the same way I'll teach you guys that you can't guess what your clients are going to like. So what you have to do is I try to create a system that creates polarity, so that the people who show up are going to learn the stuff that they love because they resonate with what I teach, because it's what I love. And so everything I teach is that stuff that I am passionate about and excited about and have fun teaching and can goof around with, and can and allows it to expand, and that makes it a much more organic sort of environment.
Yeah.
So we come out with a structure and a framework each day, but based on what people's needs are and whatever, it evolves, and that's a really fun place to be, because it makes every single trip different, and special, and people can learn new things and leave with very usable ideas from every single day. So it's not like you have to go the whole week and you leave with one thing. If you don't take notes, I mean, you could, if you do take notes, you could have 1,000 things that you learned this week, that are invaluable. So there's just a huge list of content that we go through that is that you will not get anywhere else. You won't get it in my programs. You won't get it in anybody else's programs. It's stuff that really doesn't exist on this level, and especially not in this combination. And so it's a really fun. I mean, like I said, it's my life that I'm
Yeah.
teaching, and it's a fun life. And I want other people to have fun doing this stuff too, and that's why I've crafted it this way.
Perfect. That's excellent. And it is. It's a ton of fun, and I love that you attract lifelong learners, massively curious people, and it's wonderful to create that tribe. Um, but yeah, thank you for answering all of these fun questions and enlightening us.
For
So
sure. So, last question I'm ever answering.